Okay, hello. Welcome to the tutorial for this week. This week, as you probably guessed, for the based on the content of the class, we're going to cover footsteps. Footsteps are extremely important, and they're also like a very versatile and precise thing that exists within a game space. That is to say, while we sorry, while we like take footsteps for granted. There are a lot of them that exist in every game that we have. There is a lot of flexibility and a lot of variety that you have to put into the way that you implement them into your game. They have to be adaptable to the materials that exist under your player character, but also they have to be. They have to convey a lot of extra information, how heavy, how thin, how much you know objects are there on top of your character, and all of those things make it so that implementing footsteps is not only one of the more important tasks that you can get, but also one of the more that has to or makes it one of the more flexible ones. So as with the previous tutorials, I'm not gonna touch a lot on the Wwise section of the project. I did basically exactly the same setup as it exists in Michael's video. We're still gonna take a look at it slightly. First of all, we have two sections of footsteps that we have tried to implement here. We have footsteps for dirt, and we have footsteps for snow. Let's look at them here. I have then assigned something that is called here as a random container. I can right click and put it here. Random container that allows me to play at random between the three different sounds that I have here. I am utilizing the same sounds that Michael utilized for his video, so we have those three sounds that we're trying to call by utilizing an event. I could right click here and put it as a new event, put it as a play, and actually we're going to begin utilizing that. The other ones are footsteps that are pressed in snow that are gonna become a little bit more prevalent in a bit when we just start touching on the touch container. We also develop some sounds for landing. These sounds take into consideration two different sounds, a sound for snow and a sound for dirt. I'm actually going to take these sounds away for a moment. Let's make really quickly, let's make an extra folder here down. It's gonna be landing default. I'm going to copy the sounds that we're going to utilize just for dirt. In this case, it's going to be this one and this one. Let's copy them, let's put them here. And I am going to create a new event right now. I'm not doing all of this, everything is going to be erased, but I'm doing it so that we have a reference to what the sound is as the project goes on. So let me go ahead and create a new event. Let's play it here into the landing section, because right now this is of course a switch container, which again, we're gonna touch it in a bit. And we have footsteps and footsteps there, yeah. So let's go into landing. I'm gonna create a new event. This event is going to be play landing default. Again, I'm going to erase this in a bit, but basically I'm doing this so that I can grab these two sounds, play landing default, and then I'm gonna put them here. I'm going to do the exact same thing of making one a little bit delayed. I am at this moment randomizing them, so I'm going to go ahead, click on the second sound of these two, and I'm gonna play it with a randomized maximums of fit of 0.2. So everything should have like a slow randomization for 0.2. Oh, sorry, I'm playing the wrong thing. Okay, so that I have that, I'm going to go back into the sound bank section, my event. I have, of course, a play landing default. I'm gonna put it here. Let's save, generate checked, everything is generated. I'm gonna go back into Unreal, and now that I have these here, I am going to synchronize the assets, reconcile Unreal assets. There we go. So why am I adding this? Well, I want to start more or less where we left it off, where we can start adding things from the beginning. So right now, there is no footsteps added, and we had changed this cube to be a thunderstorm that we can like walk around and the cone affects it. But that's it. That's where we left off in the previous tutorial. So let's start doing the adding of footsteps. So in Michael's video, he goes into the component of the player character, which in our case is this little starting point that you can see here. Let me reduce the contents of this thing for a minute. Here we go. So we have player start, and you see here where the object is going to appear. But player start is basically the position in which the character is going to appear. It is not the character itself. If we want to try to check where that character is, let's go back into all. I can go into content, first person, and here there is a blueprints folder, and the first blueprint that I find here is called first person character. When I double click that, I'm gonna get a new screen. You may not immediately find the blueprint. That there will be a signal that tells you, hey, you can generate a blueprint here, and you can click on that and it's gonna appear. In the viewport, we can see basically what the player character is this gigantic camera with a couple of arms attached to it, that when we start playing around it, that's why you can see the arms. But the player does not have feet, does not have like a full model, as it would do if you were working with a third person one. In this case, it's just the camera and the arms. That being said, once we have generated the blueprint, we can start actually making some work. So how can we detect the footsteps of a character that does not have a body, and how can we get that information in blueprints in Unreal? Well, the first thing to note is that we have a section and a specific component called character movement. In Unreal, at least for these default projects, these of course will be different depending on how you're trying to detect movement for your characters. But in this case, if you're utilizing the character movement, there is a lot of already basic information that we can try to detect and change around. We can, for example, default spaces of movement and change in between multiple states that we can try to track on, and all of those states have specific speeds and variables that we can then call into our project to try to reference for our footsteps. So the first thing that we need to do is relatively simple, is we need to detect when the character is moving or not. Luckily for us, there are multiple ways that we can do that. We could try to detect changes in speed, but in our case, there is a specific node that we can call utilizing character movement that is called enhanced input action. And we have it not there. Enhanced input bands, AIA. Oh, it's not separated. Okay, sorry. And we need to call it as an event. Right, so we can find it. If you look for enhanced input together, we can find that we have a bunch of events that can be covered here. However, in our case, the best way to call it would probably be just by move. So if we go into enhanced input for movement, these are events. Okay, let's do move underscore IA underscore. Okay, here we go. So enhanced input and enhanced action inputs, we have move. These are a bunch of things that are basically detecting frame references of the actions that the character is trying to do, that the player is trying to do. In our case, this is basically giving us a read every time that the character is trying to move. So let's just really quickly check if this is working the way that we intend. I'm gonna print a string that is just going to say moving. If I compile and save this reference, I should be getting that message every time that I press a character and start moving. So let's wait for it to clear, and yep, there it goes. Every time that I'm pressing the W key, or any key for that matter, we can see that it is triggering. Cool. So with that, let me close this back up. With that, we have now a good reference for when every time frame by frame that the player is moving. So now that we have that as a reference, the next thing that we need to do is try to check if the specific event would be tried to play. Actually, let's start there. Let's go back into the same thing that we had done before. We can post an event, and here I can select footsteps. I'm gonna say footsteps dirt, which is the first one that you would put inside of the video. In our case, let's go back. It would be this one. Once again, that is a selection. Let me minimize all of these. Footsteps dirt is a random container that is, let's go into the designer view. Footsteps dirt is, this is the events. So footsteps dirt is a random container that contains these 3 different files and is picking one at random. We can see the selection at random. As Michael mentioned inside of the video, you can change the repetition that we can play these sounds through, but in our case we are just gonna play it here, and then for the actor who is gonna be playing the sound, of course, get reference to self. In our case, we are not going to edit this from the editor, but same as when Michael did it. If we play this and I start moving, all of the audios are going to appear every time that the thing calls. So that is not useful. So the next thing would be, okay, how can I track it so that this same event, only happens after the other sound starts to play? In the case of Michael, the thing that he did was trying to look for spaces inside of the movement to try to determine and apply a formula that helps you try to detect if the other footstep is already done. And this is a timing based thing. We are going to do a couple of things. The first one is exactly the same. We need to add a variable that tells us, hey, is the sound still moving? Is the previous footstep still playing? So we're going to create a Boolean variable called is footstep playing. The answer is very, very simple, yes or no. Neat. So in that construction, the next thing that we need to do is we're going to try to be checking for that variable multiple times. So let me add it here, and I'm gonna get this as a reference. The first thing basically that we need to try to check is the footstep checking? If the answer is yes, the footstep is checking, then I don't want to play the next sound. But if the answer is false, then yes, please press the play that sound. And then after the sound is done playing, I need to set this variable back again, because this already is playing, so it means that it no longer is playing. I can put this back to okay, I can put this back to false. This is pretty neat. Now the next thing would be to put it here. If it isn't true, let me put back, actually let's disconnect that, break this link, put this back, set true, false into true, and then this back again. Okay, so what are we doing here? What is happening? Right now, this is not doing anything. At the beginning of the section, I am checking, hey, is footstep playing? No? Okay, now it is playing. We play the event, and then after it is done playing the event, we set it back to false so that we can go back again. If I play this right now, it wouldn't add any value to it. But the thing that we need to do is that after this original moment in which footstep is playing and before this thing happens, we need to add some extra time. So I'm gonna raise both of them, and we're going to change the order of this a little bit. First of all, let's put this event back together here. Basically, we're not going to do anything between this moment, and I prefer to set this variable after the event is already played. Basically, because this happens in matters of frame. This line is going to go, and the boolean is going to be set. So set boolean to true before the sound ends of playing. Cool. So now the thing that I need to do is to be able to stop the processing of the audio until this is back to false. How am I going to do that? I'm going to set something called set timer by event. How does this work? It works relatively simple. I have an event, and this event is going to be triggered after a certain amount of time. I also have a section for looping, which I need to turn on, basically so that every time that this is triggered, it will be available to be able to be played again, as long as the time is present. If I turn this off, it would happen once, and then it wouldn't do it again. We also have a max once per frame. This is allowing me to trigger this timer only once if multiple of them came every frame, in case your computer was too powerful, or the other way around. Maybe multiple instances of the timer would run at the same time, so I need to select it so that only once per frame it is being appeared. So now the only thing that I need to try to set are, well, two things. First of all, what is the event that we need to set? And second of all, what is the timing for it? Let's start with the event. So for this, we know what the event is. The thing that happens after the timer is the boolean goes back to false. So basically, after whatever time we assign, the boolean, the is footstep playing, goes back to false. So let's go put that in, set, and this is the thing that it needs to be triggered inside of the event. How do I do that? Relatively easy. I can create a custom event, and this is going to be called footstep boolean, let's say. And the only purpose of this event is to set the is footstep playing boolean back to false. Now I delegate this into the set timer event, and it should work correctly. Now, how do we try this? Let's just put a random weight of, let's say, 0.8 seconds. We are going to change that timing for now, but let's do this just to test. So let's go back, play, and you see that now there is a wait of 0.8 seconds between playtime. Fantastic. Now, ideally, you don't want that playing time to be only an amount of time. You could do that. You could select it so that if you have the timing correctly, so that every time that you walk a certain amount of time, that's good. But you want this, or you ideally would want this to reflect on the speed that the character is going at. So we're going to change it so that that works a little bit better. Let me put this back on top over here, and this over here. So now we're gonna play around with this timing. We need a couple of things for that. The first thing is the maximum game speed, the maximum speed that the character is having at this specific moment. As I mentioned before, the character movement already contains a certain amount of speed that we can try to utilize. You can see that by going into the character movement that we have selected. In our case is walking, and down here it says that the max walk speed is 600 centimeters per second or 6 meters per second, which is pretty good. That is the type of information that we need. How do we get that variable though? Because in case that you have a player controller that changes that value, we need to try to maximize that space. However, same thing, because we have a character movement, I can just right click and select max speed, and we can get a get max speed from the character movement, and that is the value that we're gonna try to operate. So I have the maximum speed, but same as it does when you are walking, you don't walk at the same speed that you're trying to manage. You don't take steps at the same speed that you're trying to manage. Basically, every meter is not a step necessarily. So we need to create a ratio in between how many steps are you taking by the allotted time. In this case, we have 6 meters. Sorry, let me go back into my character movement. So we have a movement of 600 centimeters per second. That is the amount of coverage that the character has in 600 centimeters per second. Then how many footsteps do you think this is going to take? We can make that conversion, of course, but basically what is going to happen is that you have a ratio that it's usually lower on speed. But again, this is something that we have to channel. So how are we going to work that? We're going to create a variable. This variable is going to be a float number. It's going to be called, let's call it footstep radio. I'm going to make it a public variable so that I can access it from the editor, and then after compiling it, I'm gonna give it a value of, let's say, let's say 500 for now. I'm going to use that variable, put it as a get footstep, and basically the timing that I'm going to utilize is going to be the difference in between these two. So let's go into a division, divide this value, the footstep ratio, with the maximum speed, and then that is going to give me the timing. Just for inquiry, we're going to print what that value is right now, not as a duration, but as a string. So we have the number, and we know more or less if we need it to be more or less. So I'm gonna play that, and now. Okay, so here's the thing. Right now the value is at 0.8. I could, for example, if I make my ratio bigger, so let's say that I can change that from here. Well, I mean, I could, but I'm not going to right now, because it would imply me putting the object inside of screen. But I could select this footstep ratio, and I could change the value once again from 500, let's say, to 600. This would increase the time in between footsteps, because that would be the division between these two would be 1. So basically, the smaller this number is, let's put 200 to demonstrate, the shorter the amount of time we are going to elapse. So let's compile and do 200 and see how it feels. So this feels now too quick, but as I was mentioning before, this is going to be something that will depend on your game and your pacing. If you want to change these values so that the footsteps feel more appropriate, or changing these values so that it feels more appropriate, is going to depend on how fast your character is moving. And as I mentioned before, you can change that value up here. I could go here and change this from 600, and I could also go here to see which speed of footstep is going to be correct. But that is pretty much it on this front, at least for right now. As you can see here, we have a certain amount of speed. Okay, fantastic. Now, after you have already decided on your perfect timing, the next thing that we covered inside of Michael's tutorial was falling. Basically, how to determine if the character is jumping or not. Because in its current form, when you move vertically, when you move horizontally while in the air, the character still considers itself to be moving, and it makes it so the sound doesn't stop playing. So like in the air, you can see both the number appearing on screen, and also you can hear that the character is still giving footsteps, even though I'm definitely jumping and not touching the ground. So inside of the context in Unity, this implies a ground check, but with the help of our very useful character movement element, we can generate an already existing check. So I'm going to separate this space, and then I'm going to call onto is moving on ground. So what is this doing? This is basically saying yes or no to the question, is the character in this moment moving on the ground? If the answer is yes, in this case, let's add another branch. If this character says, if the thing says yes, then we can start the process of recognizing a footsteps. But if the character is moving and it is not moving in the ground, then the audio is not going to play. With that small change already, we should be able to, so we can hear the sound here. What if I, let's say, jump from here? Cool. So we are not listening now to the audio while the character is in the air, which is really, really useful. Okay. After this, the next small change that we need to put is the introduction of a falling sound, a landing sound. So once again, as I mentioned before, I created this landing default, which is the combination of these two sounds put inside of an event. I can play them from there. Landing sound, it's two sounds, this one and then the other one, first one then second one, with a slight delay on the second one. How can we put that inside of the game? Then it's exactly the same, relatively simple. I have an event that can be called event on landed. If you wanted to apply a jump sound, it would work exactly the same way. You could do an event on jumped, and this is the place where you would put the post event note. In our case, we are gonna call it from the event on landed. In here, you could select what the object that the character is landing on is, like what the reference of that object is, if you needed that information. In our case, this is just going to be the opportunity of triggering on landing default, and of course, which actor is going to apply it. It is me, the self. You could also call that information from the same variable, but it would become a little bit unorganized. So we're gonna keep it there, compile that, and let's see. There it is. Whoop, 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 nice. Okay, we have our landing sound right now. What's next? The next thing that we covered inside of the game was the existence of switch containers. In that space, the switch containers allow us to put multiple variations of the same thing, and it is really important with footsteps in the sense that we can add multiple types of footsteps. In our case, those were dirt and snow, and a call from in between them, following a second condition given to us by a game sync configuration. In our case, that game sync configuration, what's footsteps? It has two switches. It's a switch group that contains two switches, dirt and snow, and then the change in between that is utilized to try to select in between the types of footsteps that we have. We created then a switch container, and in that switch container we added the different types of footsteps that we have, dirt and snow. In both of them, they're random containers. We added them into our switch groups. So drag them from here to here, and here we have them. When you want to try that, you can see here in the transport control that I can select in between both of the switch groups and then play to make sure that they are playing correctly. So how do we generate that change? Let's do the exercise inside of Unreal. First of all, I want to once again create the object. I'm gonna go into place actors, and let's go into a plane. I'm going to add it from here. Let's put it around here. Go back into it. Where did I put it? Ooh, did I even add it into the game? Oh no, I didn't. Cool. So plane. There we go. How am I going to change this? Well, first of all, I need it to be a little bit more notorious, so I'm going to make it the size 6, let's say, and then I'm gonna elevate it a little bit let's say 0.1, so that it is just over the time. It's so much so that let's do a 0.05. Cool. We have it like just over the side so that we can look at it and we can jump on it, but it is still not touching the ground. Neat. Now the next thing that I will need to do is add, well, first of all, you know what, let's change this configuration a little bit. I am going to add a different material so that we can, so that it looks better. So content, starter content, here is a material. Let's go ahead, let's put the concrete because it kind of looks like snow. Yeah, we can make that imagination that is snow. Sweet. Now the next thing that I need to do is to add a trigger volume. As we mentioned in the previous one, you can add multiple types of trigger volumes. I am going to add a trigger box. So now in the outliner, I'm going to go ahead and put that trigger box under the plane. I'm going to name this plane snow, as they say, snow patch. I think it's also the name that Michael utilizes. I'm gonna grab this trigger box and I'm gonna center it, and then I am going to change the size a little bit. So the scale is just going to be 1, and I'm gonna change the box extent a little bit. Let's put it to 50 and 50. That would cover the length and width, but how tall it is, it needs to be a little bit different. So I'm going to change it from 40 to, let's say, 25. Neat. Now I need to make it a little bit taller so that it fits nicely with the, sorry, not taller, but I need to lift it up. So I'm gonna change this from 0.0 to 0.0 to 0. Let's say 25. As you can see, that puts it right above where I need it to be. Let's put it at 24 so that we have that extra space and it is actually touching the ground. That is relatively useful. Cool. So now I have that area. How do I put it inside of the patch? Same thing as we had done before when we were talking about other objects. I'm gonna select my snow patch and I'm gonna click on convert this actor into a reusable blueprint class, new subclass. That is going to create, of course, the semblance, but first of all, the event graph. I'm gonna minimize that and make sure that I haven't let go of the trigger box. I'm gonna put it back again, save that. Neat. Oh, minimize it again. Let's edit that snow patch blueprint. And now the only thing that I need to do here is try to make sure that I have, that I can call the switch groups. Luckily for us, it's really easy inside of Unreal. AudioKinetic already has a function that is called set switch. So set switch is the thing that is going to change the objects in between the different switch groups that we have. If you follow along with the configuration and after the soundbox have already been defined, you can track the changes in between the game syncs and which ones are going to be selected inside of your soundbox through here. So I have footsteps and dirt and footsteps and snow, and these are basically the idea. Every time that I check on footsteps, I'm gonna check if it's dirt or snow, and it is dirt by default per the configuration that we made inside of our switch groups. You can check that here when we were touching on play footsteps, for example, for the switch groups. Am I correct? No. Here we go. We have a switch group or state group by default, and a switch group or state group, which is the one that synchronizes with the game syncs. When this as a event is already posted, I have it selected so that footsteps dirt is the one that is placed by default, and then I am utilizing the same for the following one. But let's start there. So how do I call this then? It's the same way that we had talked about it before. I can go and create a new variable, this variable being, of course, a box trigger volume. Sorry, the trigger box. Oh shoot. trigger box game object, and then we go down here and on actor begin overlap. Let's change the name of this variable. This is going to be called snow patch trigger, and then begin overlap snow patch trigger. I need to set the switch and going from there to snow. Perfect. Now, it is important to mention that in this case, I need to select which actor is the one that this action is going to be applied upon. It's going to be the same as in Unity, that you have to select it here. If we put the overlapped actor, this is going to be the snow patch itself. I need to place the other actor into the actor selection. So let's see if that works. Of course, in our case, because we were playing around not with the last event, but with the previous event that we were touching on, I also have to go inside of the first person blueprint, select here, and I need to change this event from play footsteps dirt to play footsteps, which is the one that contains the switch groups. So much so that I'm going to go ahead into my other sound banks, my other events, and I'm going to go ahead and delete the play footsteps dirt. If I go back into my sound bank, then I see that this is missing. I can eliminate that, generate check, save, make sure that everything is fine, and then inside of for real, in the Wwise browser, I need to resynchronize this. It's going to tell me, hey, this is deleted. I'm going to reconcile it. Ooh, let me... Wwise you... Okay, yes. View asset operation deletes not in sound banks, projected result. Yeah, it's telling me that I deleted a play footsteps space, but it should be fine for the purposes of integration. And now I can go back here, play footsteps. Oh, it still selects it. Okay, I have play footsteps as my default. So let's see. And assuming that everything is correct, when I assign here, oh, it is not. Oh, of course, it is not working because I have not yet selected. This is the same thing that happened in the previous video. I have not yet selected where do I need this trigger box. So I'm going to go into snow patch. Oh, did I even freaking compile this? Oh, I didn't make it public. So public variable for the snow patch trigger, compile this as a value. And then here, snow patch trigger is now available. I can select from here is the trigger box that is under itself. Perfect. Now I save and let's run it again. Dirt. Oh, I missed that jump. And perfect. Now, the problem that we have here is that if I leave this, I am still hearing the footsteps, and that's because I haven't put the switch back. So let's go back here into our options. I have an on actor and overlap. Let's add it into the value. Let's copy the set switch. Let's put it exactly the same, the other actors as well, and this goes back to dirt. Now, if I go in, I'm leaving. Perfect. Now, as you saw in the unit video, if I jump here, it is still making the sound of dirt. So I need to change it or add that selection as we had done before. In the case of landing, however, it is going to change a little bit. I did create this landing default space, but now I don't need it anymore. So I'm going to delete that. Let's save that space, go into my events. Inside of my events, I have the landing default event is not longer going to be useful, and I'm gonna delete that, and I'm going to just focus on the play landing space. For that purpose, I'm gonna generate the checked ones, and that is going to be a problem in Unreal because I am using that value a little bit, specifically here. I'm going to change this from play landing to basically play landing default, and now at this moment I am utilizing the same information as I did at the beginning of the video. Basically, I utilize a switch container to randomize the different steps that we have for landing. In each of them, let's go into the designer view. In each of them, I am selecting between the options for footsteps that I have. In step 1, I have, dirt and snow, and then in step 2, dirt and snow, and then by generating an event that is accessing landing, play landing, I have one after the other, and they change depending, of course, on the switch group. Perfect. Let's save for that. Let's go back into Unreal. Let's check into the Wwise one. As you can see, you have a couple of extra spaces that have a U asset, but they are no longer present inside of the context of the game. They don't exist in Wwise nor the sound bank, and they have the U asset, but the U asset is orphaned. If I ignore these two spaces, the other ones that we have selected, we can see the switches, and we can see the play landing, play footsteps, and also the other ones that we have utilized in the past. If I just play this, let me minimize this a little bit. Perfect. So these are the implementations that we have done up to this point. There's nothing else that I think that I need to add. Please, however, do watch the video, Michael's video around the implementation for Wwise. As I mentioned, as I have mentioned several times in class, the exercise of trying to put in between can be a little bit frustrating, but the point of like he goes into a lot more detail around the specifics on putting these elements inside of Wwise. And if you have any questions, please let me know, send me an email, we can set up office hours. For now, however, this is everything that I have for you, and I'll see you next week.